We've been enjoying this series of presentations about various elements of volunteerism and the law. And finally, we're going to look at how to reduce the risk of making your volunteers into employees. This is not a significant risk as volunteers are unlikely to want to be employees. However, if things do go wrong, the impact can be significant and an organisation's reputation may be damaged. To manage the risk, there are several things to consider. Let's just summarise how to avoid creating a contract with your volunteers. Reduce perks that could be seen as consideration or payment. Even benefits necessary for the volunteers to carry out their work, such as training, can be problematic if they're badged in such a way that suggests an obligation on the part of the volunteer. For instance, some organisations ask prospective volunteers to commit to a specified amount of time in return for a qualification that could enhance the volunteer's employability. Instead of placing an obligation on the volunteer, it would be better to emphasise that they would benefit more from actually putting the training into practice rather than simply completing the training and then leaving. Ensure that expenses can't be seen as income by ensuring you only reimburse volunteers for out-of-pocket expenses. Avoid anything that could be seen as a payment for work. For example, paying expenses should be a genuine reimbursement of out-of-pocket expenses rather than a fixed amount per day or per week. Training offered should be linked to the role the person is carrying out rather than a general perk or enticement to the volunteer. Set out the terms of the relationship based on reasonable expectations rather than obligations. You should also avoid the use of any language that sounds contractual. For example, instead of asking volunteers to agree to volunteer for the next 6 months, it's best to talk of hopes and expectations with the understanding that volunteers are free to come and go as they wish and that there are no obligations placed upon them. One idea is to suggest if volunteers stay in the role for at least a specified time, then both they and the organisation will get the most out of the experience. Don't pin your volunteers down to obligations that sound contractual, such as making them complete training in a certain amount of time, filling in holiday request forms, obliging them to cover for paid staff and do extra hours or duties that are inappropriate for a volunteer. You'll see other examples of obligation in the case studies at the end of this series of presentations. Care must be taken to set out what the organisation will provide, how it will treat the volunteer, and what is expected from the volunteer in such a way as to avoid the creation of mutual obligations, which could be regarded in law as creating a contract. Phrasing the volunteer relationship in terms of expectation rather than obligation. Language that suggests employment, a volunteer agreement rather than a contract, a role rather than a job description. The difference between paid staff and volunteer roles should be obvious to anyone coming along to your organisation. Volunteer roles should always be complementary. Case studies in the next presentation are taken from genuine legal proceedings where volunteers have taken organisations to court. Most volunteers wouldn't dream of doing so, but if they feel they've been unfairly treated or discriminated against, there is the danger they may. The Volunteer Centre has a wide range of resources for those who manage volunteers. These range from sample documents, information sheets, we can give you links to online resources, and also potential networks that may help with your volunteer management where you can connect with other people who manage volunteers. There's no such thing as a silly question when you're involving volunteers, and we're more than happy to help you if we can. Please do get in touch and we'll do our best to help. Here are our contact details, email, direct phone number, and also our Facebook and Twitter feeds. There's loads of information on our website, which is volunteeringcounts.org.uk, including details of our training. We do regular posts on our blog sharing information, ideas, events, and also have an opportunity of the day every single day for local volunteer involving groups. So why not get in touch and see how we can help you get the very best of your volunteer programme.